I remember having to throw up in a bush because it was getting to that point where, like, my head was like, well, you're not going to listen to me, but you'll listen to your body. And that's the thing, I was going to a job where it was just making me physically sick. Really encourage people to do a job they enjoy. If you get a chance to perform in front of people, no matter what style of music it is, just do it, because you just don't know what it will lead to.
So it's been, what is it, a few weeks since we said we were going to the
Yeah.
podcast anyway?
Yeah, but I was just saying, time just goes like that. So
but you're travelling around the world all over the place, so it's probably worthwhile just introducing yourself.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Joe. I'm a professional saxophonist, but I go by the stage name as I am Joe Reeve. That's my stage name. And then I'm also a business and creative consultant. So the professional saxophonist, that's pretty self-explanatory. I do weddings, bars, clubs, corporate events, you name it. Anything that wants a bit of live entertainment, I'll perform at. The business and creative consultancy side is mainly it's more in the education sector. So it's sort of going into high schools, colleges, universities. So I work sometimes one-to-one with students who want to try and have a career in music after uni, or if they don't want to go to uni or they're at college, they just say, no, I don't want to do uni, I just want to go straight into it. So I kind of mentor them and teach them sort of the business side now, because I used to teach saxophone, but when I moved to the Northwest, the gigs just went boom, and I just thought I haven't got time to teach anymore. So, but now I'm kind of teaching, sort of mentoring, lecturing sort of students on the business side, so the aspects outside of playing a musical instrument, because I feel now there's a lot of criticism towards degrees now, that they're not really preparing students to become professional musicians now. It's kind of, they've always, like my university, I was at Newcastle University, I studied contemporary and popular music, and don't get me wrong, I learned a lot. It definitely improved me as a musician, but yeah, a lot of the stuff I've learned, especially the business side, I've learned while being a professional musician now, really. And so I teach students sort of and prepare them learn how to negotiate, so knowing your price, knowing what you're worth as well, because I still get it now, 11 years in the business now, people trying to sort of haggle me down, like, oh, is there any movement on the price and stuff, and I'm like, no, that's my price. So it's just getting them to sort of prepare for that. Obviously, how to run a business, making sure you're registered with HMRC as well, don't get any nasty surprises when you're starting out, because I've known people who have been busking and someone from HMRC has come up saying, oh, how much have you earned and stuff, and been absolutely stung, saying, well, you got to pay this and stuff. So it's preparing them for that now, because I'd say a lot of the time, 90% of the time with what I do with the consultancy side is more just giving them a kick up the backside, really, because some of them, they've got all the skills, they've got all the talent, they know what they need to do. It's just actually going out there and doing it. And I think for me, starting was never a problem. I knew I wanted to do this, and I just went for it. But it's amazing. I feel, especially when you're running your own business, starting is the hardest bit. It's amazing how many people struggle with it. For me, I was quite fortunate that I just went for it. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it and just see what happens, really. I didn't know what I was doing. I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to take all my business cards when I lived in Newcastle and just go around every bar, restaurant, anywhere that I think would have live music, and I just gave out business cards saying, oh, if you need any live entertainment, here's my details and stuff. And because I just went and on a whim and just did it, I was able to get my first residency, which gave me regular work every Saturday. So I was able to build that foundation and just start from that. So when I say to musicians, you want to, at the start, it's like, say you've got a tree and it's a tree trunk, you've got that base, that you've got that regular work coming in, and then eventually you've got branches and you build on that. So you have that regular work, and then you get other things come in, so like weddings, corporate events, private parties and stuff, and then eventually it grows. But so with the consultancy side, I lecture as well, so I sort of talk about what I do and stuff, and then just sort of a list a few things. It's not so much, I don't go into so much detail when I'm mentoring, it's just more just to give a brief outlook and kind of say, so when I usually start my lectures or my seminars, I always ask 3 questions. I say, so here's the first question. The first question is, anyone here who knows exactly what they want to do, they don't need to hear me. I know they know exactly what they need to do. And usually no one puts their hands up. Second one is, I know what I want to do, but I don't know how I'm going to get there. I really don't know where to start. So I'm kind of in a maybe. And most people do put their hands up. And then the third one is, I haven't got a clue. Who's this blonde Cockney fellow chatting to me? I don't understand a word he's saying. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. I went out last night, I'm hungover. And some people do. And I always say, because a lot of them are in their 20s, and I've found now, it doesn't matter if you don't know what you're doing, because I feel your 20s are just kind of that time to just figure out what you want to do. And I always say, like, find what you're passionate about, but also what you're good at as well. Because I feel you can be passionate about something. Like, I'm a big football fan. I'm very passionate about football, but I know I'm not going to be a professional footballer. But I feel if you find something you're passionate at, but you're good at as well, home in on that, double down on that, and just work on that, and just find something you're good at. Because we spend majority of our lives sort of working from the age of 18, and then we usually retire at 60, 65. It's a big chunk of our lives. So I always say, do something you enjoy. Just do it, because I'm very fortunate now, and sometimes I have to sort of sit back and just appreciate what I've got and the positives of what I do. So like, it's Monday morning. I don't have to get up so early, but I remember when I lived in a flat in Manchester, my flatmate worked in recruitment. He'd be up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I didn't need to get out of bed till whenever, because I'm either working the night before, but I didn't need to because my next gig isn't till a couple of days later. And it's like, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm very lucky, because I know a lot of people I meet, they don't really enjoy their jobs. And especially when I go back to my hometown and people ask what I do, and they always want to know what I do, and I feel so I'm quite a humble person. I try not to talk about myself too much, because I feel like I'm being very self-centered, and when I ask them what they do, they kind of don't want to talk about it, because they just don't like their job. So they want to hear what I'm doing, because a professional musician, you don't meet many professional musicians, because whenever I tell people that's what I do, they're like, oh, that's what you do for a living. It's like, it is. So but yeah, I'm very, very grateful this is what I can do for a living. But I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I was very fortunate, especially in my early years, because I started playing the saxophone when I was about six years old, and I was very fortunate. My dad's a musician as well, not full time. He sort of played in pubs and then worked for British. It was like British Gas, but they were called National Grid. It's something to do with gas, but that was his job, and then he did that at the weekend. And there was a time I nearly wanted to give up the saxophone, because when I'm a teenager, I'd rather go down the park and just drink cheap cider, because playing saxophone is not cool anymore. And it's like, my dad was like, no, you're gonna, while you're living in this house, you're gonna keep playing it, and you'll thank me one day. And I'll say this now, thanks, Dad. So it's like, so I don't like to admit he's right most of the time, but he was right on this occasion. And yeah, and for me, when I started, when sort of from 6 till about 14, it was really just a hobby. I was just going through the motions, really. And for me, I wasn't very academic. I didn't really enjoy school, especially from year 7 to 9. I didn't really enjoy it. Like, teachers really didn't have a lot of, like, I remember apparently my mum told me this after I finished. I think it was a few years back. She said, yeah, your primary school didn't think you would leave school with any GCSEs whatsoever. They thought you would leave with nothing. I wasn't a disruptive child. I did, like, pay attention. I didn't get into trouble or anything, but I just really struggled with school, and I wasn't very academic. And
a lot of creatives, excuse me, a lot of creatives do struggle with that, and some of it's around attention, because it's about being interested. Yeah. So you would have understood the value of it, but you might have been able to, I'm assuming this, by the way, because I was like that, which was, I could probably take it for 20 minutes and then I need to do something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think my attention span was quite, it's just like, how many times we're going to read Mice and Men or something, or just like reading Shakespeare and stuff. And it's just like, and then like, it's like, don't get me wrong, there were some teachers there who, because my mum works in the local bookshop in town, and they come in sometimes and say, I see what Joe's doing on social media. I'm so happy for him. Like, he's done really well. And
the academic side of it. So because you had that outlet, it's like your sport or anything like that. Not everybody is, obviously we have to do the academic side. It's good to read, it's good to do that maths. But the point is that you have to tap into people's gift. And I think that when I'll give an example actually over the years, particularly in business or just working for somebody else, and you have a team, I'd never ever focus on anyone's weaknesses ever. It was all about their strengths, and then you can build a team around that accordingly.
Yeah.
And, forget all the stuff you don't want to do the stuff you do want to do.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's how you get a good balance, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it sounds to me for you, it came just at that right impressionable time. You untapped a talent that you might not necessarily have followed up on, but he also didn't say that you were useless, which one of the other and that's the message to some teachers actually, is recognize that we're all human and we're under pressure. But what you say to a child can impact them for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely, yeah. And I do say, and I think a good analogy I always say at school is like, say you've got an animal pen and you've got a tree, you plonk a tree in the middle of that animal pen. Say you put like a lion, a monkey, a cow, a horse, a pig, a squirrel in there, and you go to all the animals, all right, go climb that tree. Only the lion, the monkey and the squirrel are going to be able to climb that tree, all the others. And I feel that's like school. They just they're so concentrated on results, and it's like they're getting students to just do the same thing, but not all students are able to sit down. And like, there were students in my class who just could not sit down. Either it was because they had ADHD but they didn't know it at the time and stuff, or they just, and I think you really do need to hone in on just what are you good at. And that's what I say, even when sometimes I will go into high schools and I just sort of sit down with a kid who's probably a little bit of a troublemaker, but just saying, okay, what do you like doing? What is it? And he said, oh, I like cars and stuff. I said, oh, have you ever thought maybe doing work experience in a garage or something?
Because everybody wants to be a musician or a singer or like a rock star or something. And guess what? Even if you're lucky, you've still got to work flipping hard at it. And by the way, you might not make any money out of it at first,
I know, exactly.
But
and
it's
that's
a risk.
Yeah, it is a risk. And I feel, but I do say, that's when I'm sort of talking to musicians one-to-one and mentoring them, I do say this will not be easy. I'm very honest with them. I don't try and discourage them, but I'm just very honest. And I say this will be hard, because even working in the industry, the gigs that pay quite well aren't the most Instagrammable, aren't the most, like, they don't look as cool, but that's what pays my mortgage. That's what pays the bills and stuff. But but you've got to do that, because that's why you can do this as a job. And it's not been easy. I mean, I've enjoyed the journey, but there are some days I'm like, oh, this is like, so if I'm driving to a gig and it's raining and stuff. But I always kind of say, I had a great aunt who always said to me, Joe, enjoy the bad times. Well, appreciate the bad times, because when it's good, you really appreciate it when it's good, and you really do. And when it is good, I really do appreciate it more, and I really take it all in so much more, because in a weird way, I am grateful for the bad times, because I know something good will then eventually happen. And when I'm in that good moment, I'll be taking it all in, and I'll be appreciating it so much more. But I am very honest with students, and when I'm mentoring them, and I do say, like, this is hard. It is a cutthroat industry, and it will chew you up, and it will absolutely beat you to your knees sometimes, but you just got to keep persevering, because it will be worth it. But yeah, I always say, if you're not too sure, message me, ask for help. That's the thing. I think some people they struggle asking for help sometimes. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to have your hand held. It's just asking for a bit of advice and stuff. So I get some message me saying, oh, Joe, I don't know what to charge and stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe like you've been performing for however many years, just do this, do that, and then kind of maybe start with this. And then eventually, once you build a reputation, then gradually build it up. But if there's anything, and obviously cost of living is playing, I've had to put my price up, because things are going up, things are more expensive now and stuff, so you have to factor that in as well. But I just kind of I always sort of just prepare, going back to sort of that route you go down, you have to just be prepared. But I feel a lot of people, they don't want to take that path they want to take a path of least resistance, which it's not a bad thing. Some people, I've got friends who just are happy with their 9-to-5 job. They don't want any major stress. They're just happy. They say, I make enough so I can look after my family and do this, which is fine, that's absolutely fine. But for me, what I like about my job is always different. I'm always doing something different every day. You don't know who's going to be pop into your inbox. It's just, I like that variety of just different things that happen as well. And you meet so many different people from so many different backgrounds, and you learn a lot, really, not just about your industry and what you do as a job, it's just about life, really. And you open up to so many different people, really, and that's what I really like about it. And but yeah, and then so what was good when I finished sixth form and I sort of got to the end and I was just sort of going back to school, and like my head of sixth form, he was very much like, oh well, because I didn't have enough UCAS points to go to uni, but I knew I wanted to go to university. It was more I wanted to get out of, so where I'm from, it's a small seaside town, Felixstowe, Suffolk, and it's a great place to grow up, but once you get to that age, 17, 18, it's a bit like, well, you see the same people every week, and it's just, and I remember coming home from somewhere, I can't remember, and I sat down with my mum, I just said, I need to get out of here, I can't stay here, I need to just see what is out there, and me and my dad at the time, not that we didn't get along, but we were kind of just getting a bit tense, and it was kind of like, and I said to mum, look, and dad's getting on my nerves as well and stuff, but I said I need to get out of here, so I didn't have enough UCAS points. So I thought, well, let's go to college, just build up those UCAS points, do a year at college. And when I told my head of sixth form I was going to do this, he was like, "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea, Joe, because you're a bit like university's a bit beyond you, and maybe look at an apprenticeship." And I'm like, "Well, hang on, I did an apprenticeship. You told me." You told me that wasn't going to work, and now you're saying do an apprenticeship. And this is what baffles me with some teachers. You've told me, I feel it's like just doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result, and it's just like. And this is, I remember a friend of my mum's told me this, who is a teacher. She said the problem is with teachers, Joe, with some teachers, is that they go to school themselves, they go to university, they do a PGC, they become teachers, and they marry a teacher. That is all they know. So someone like you, who's quite creative, who's a bit different, that's just going to seem so alien to them. So he said that's probably why. And that's going back to, I don't think he was a bad person. It's just, I just think in that role, I think it was just very narrow-minded and just kind of, no, this is how you should do it and stuff. And then, but I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to ignore you, and I'm just going to go to college. And that year at college, I moved to Braintree in Essex, and it was no different than Felixstowe, but I was just like, I just want somewhere new. I don't know anyone. I just want a fresh start. And that year, I really just became my own person, really. Like, I'd go to London every weekend because I started playing with the National Youth Jazz Orchestra Academy Big Band, and it was performing with musicians who were younger than me, not even in high school, but just so talented. And just, I thought, oh my God, but it's I always say, be in a room with people, I always try and be the dumbest person in the room, because all you can do is learn. All you can do is just take stuff. And I was just watching this kid who's only 11 come out with this incredible jazz solo. I'm just thinking, oh my God, I'm 19 at the time, and I'm just like, oh my God. But it was good, because I think it made me step up my game as a musician as well. And I was going to London every week, because before I started doing that, the tube used to be a really scary thing. I was like, oh my God, how do you work the underground? But then I started, and then not only did I improve as a musician, but I became more independent, didn't have to rely on mum and dad to do everything for me as well. And I just kind of grew as a person, and I just learned so much. And then I said, and college was great for me, because I had teachers who just believed in me, and
is that because you were focusing on one thing there?
Yeah, I was just focusing on just
so the output is music.
Yeah, it was just, so it was creative musicianship with little music technology and stuff. So you learn, it was performing, but you learn a bit about recording. So like, setting up a microphone and stuff. But it was just where the teachers, they were fully on your side and stuff, and they were like, if you need help with your personal statement, we'll help you with that. It was just so supportive. And my college tutor Rich, who has spoken at my networking event I run, I owe so much to him as well, but he says to me, Joe, all I did was just give you that nudge. And essentially that's what I'm doing when I'm mentoring young musicians, even though it has such a big effect on them. We are just giving them that little nudge, be like, look, you can do this, just go for it. And so that year at college, just just was so good. And then it just brought me, I knew that I was able to live, well, I lived with a family, but it was able to live with people I didn't know and just be able to just look after myself, do my, literally just basic things, do my own shopping, do my own, just little things it was so good. And then I applied for a number of different universities, but Newcastle was the one I wanted to go to. And then I moved couple of hundred miles away from home, and living up north, it was just, I mean, people are so friendly up in Newcastle, and I always say this to people, like, Newcastle sort of made me the man I am today, without sounding too cliche. I say I was born in the south, but I was made in the north, because the person I was the first 18 years, not that I'm ashamed of him, but naturally I was very introverted. I just not very confident in myself, but Newcastle really brought out that confidence in me. But at the time, you're at university, you're going out on a Monday night, like they love a drink up there and stuff, and the party scene was just insane. I was going to these clubs on a Monday night or Tuesday night, and it's just, I thought, wow, this is insane. You come from a very small town to a big city and stuff, and it was great. It was hard. I mean, university education is a different level, because I had to do a lot of essay writing, and it was, and again, I just learned so much in that 3 years, not just for being a musician, but just becoming my own person. And what I've realised now, looking back, and I've realised it's not of the pursuit of happiness, it's the happiness in the pursuit. It's what you learn on the journey, and it's just, and I look back at those moments, and even at the time, you don't think they had a big impact on you. It's, now you look back and think, God, that really did help me, because not only did it help me become very disciplined and have a focus on what I wanted to do, because when I got to my final year at university, I had a very strict schedule. I didn't go out as much. I would get up at 5:30 in the morning, go to the practice rooms at 6:30, have 2 hours playing, and then I would go to my lecturer. But I also made sure I did a lot of performance modules, so I'm just performing. And when I'm talking to university students, I say, use this time. If you want to be a professional musician, use that time, practice as much as you can, because, and I always say, do at least a minimum of 6 hours playing. So when I say playing, the difference between playing and practicing, don't just sit in a practice room for 6 hours in a room. Go out and play. So like when I'm saying I'm getting up at so I get up at 6:30 and do that 2 hours in the practice room, and then I leave that practice room, and then I go and perform and play with other musicians. So already before 11 o'clock, I've already done about 4 hours of playing already. So it was building that sort of vigorous routine, that discipline to be like, well, if I want to do this, I'm going to have to maybe not sacrifice too much sleep, but just like, I'm not going to, if someone says, oh, let's go out, Joe, no, I've got to be up early in the morning because I want to practice this. I need to get my final recital pieces ready for the final year and stuff. So it was really, that's when I really started to learn you learn about sort of sacrifice, like, because I think a lot of people, they don't want to give up those sort of comforts, really. They want to still sort of go out. But I learned how to, if I'm going to do this, it's going to be hard. Like it wasn't always, when I say I got up at 5:30, it wasn't easy. Like there was some days I'm like, so I just click the snooze button. I'm like, no, let's get up. And so it's going back to that. I chose the path of the most resistance. And for me, I'm so grateful I did that, because, and then what my head of subject, so I can get my words out there. My head of subject sort of says to me, and he uses me as an example, is Joe used that dedication to work hard. And so when I finished uni and I know I wanted to become a professional musician, I already started that hard work. I'd already started that sort of consistency, just being consistent and just like knowing this is what I need to do. I can't just sit back and just stay in my room or do that. I've got to go, because what I say to young musicians as well, when they're starting out, your practice time will be cut down because you need to go out and go to the gigs. Don't expect the gigs to come to you. And like you practice, like I don't practice as much as I probably should do, but because I had that time at university, it prepared me for the long term. So I was able to practice for hours on end when I'll play it as much as I could at university, because any gig opportunity I just took, I went for it. And then just any chance I got to perform, because I had a great uncle who was, this is probably the best advice I ever got. And he said to me, Joe, because he used to play saxophone as well, he said, Joe, just play anything. Don't just play jazz music, just play rock music. If you get a chance to perform in front of people, no matter what style of music it is, just do it, because you just don't know what it will lead to. You don't know what you'll learn from it. Because when I was at high school, I learned jazz music and I did my grades, but then when I went to college, I started playing like Thin Lizzy, Pink Floyd. So I started doing a lot of rock music, and then I also discovered house music as well, and that's how I discovered the whole sax DJ thing. When I was at uni, I did a few sax DJ gigs, but it was a mixture of band work as well. But so that advice was just probably the best advice I ever got, because I was able to just, if anyone messaged me saying, oh Joe, I want you to play in our reggae band, I want you to do this, I was able to do it. So it was just like I was able to put a few fingers in a few pies as well, and just kind of made myself very employable as well to people who want that. So I mean, I don't do much band work now, it's more predominantly sax DJ, but if anyone did want band stuff, I'm able to like just do it and go for it, really. But so university was good. Like it really, I mean, I didn't get the result I wanted, but I still left with a degree, which is more than what people expected of me. And what I find quite funny, really, is because I got probably one of the lowest performance marks in my year, yet I was the first person to do it, to be a professional musician full time, because a lot of people went off and then did a master's, and not many people in my course are now doing music. They're doing other careers. I mean, they're very successful at it, and they enjoy their jobs, and they're very good at it, but it just shows that don't let someone's opinion of you become your reality. It's just like, and I still get people coming saying, oh, you should have got your result remarked. I can't believe they gave you that result. And I'm like, well, it was 8 years ago now. I don't really, it's just, things worked out in the end. And it's like, and I think it's a good learning curve, like, just because I've had people, because what I do is different, and I get people give their opinion, and people saying, oh well, you can't do that as a career, it's just not. And the music industry is a hard business, and it is hard to make a living out of, but it's just using that advice, just saying play anything, because you just don't know where it's going to be. Because I fell into the whole house scene just by a DJ seeing me busk and saying, oh, I make house music, could you come to my studio? And what was good about that is that I learned how to play a whole different style of music I wasn't accustomed to. And then I was able to make those mistakes in a music studio. So when it came to gigging, I was ready for that as well. And it's just, I think, it just really, it really opened, that time in education just really prepared me for now, really. And it just kind of,
it's also great insight for the students you're talking to.
Oh, it is,
because you've got that background, and so you can say, look, expect these blockers as you go along. What's the saxophone you play? Is it alto, or is it?
It's a tenor sax. So I started off with alto, but then I picked up a tenor. So when I was in high school, they had a spare tenor lying about, and I just I said to head of music, I said, oh, is that anyone's tenor? He said, oh no, it's just a spare we have. So there's a mouthpiece and there's a couple of reeds that haven't been used. So I just gave the tenor a go, and I thought, actually, this feels I like this more than an alto. So I just predominantly play tenor sax. Now I did have an alto, but I sold it because it's just gathering dust. I don't know when I'm going to use it, really. And to be honest, even if I do go back and do band stuff, I say, oh, I've just got tenor. Is that all right? They said, no, that's fine. We just need saxophone. Like, that's fine. That works. So I just play tenor because I feel, because a lot of other sax players, they play alto, but I always look at the fine margins, and I always sweat the small stuff. And I feel, because I play tenor, I feel it kind of makes me stand out a bit as well, because it's a different sound. It's a bit more deeper sound, and I feel I've always tried to create a tone that people might be able to recognise. Because whenever I listen to some of my favourite sax players and stuff, I can literally close my eyes and I can listen to one of their tracks. I'm like, okay, that's Kenny G. Oh, that's David Sanborn. Or I know exactly who those sax players are, and just by listening to their tone. And that's why I've always kind of wanted to play. That's why I always liked tenor as well. Just it gave me that different sound. Maybe just I'm a very big believer of kind of sweating the small stuff as well. I always look at the finer details. So even when in my work, so when I'm turning up to a gig, I always make sure I'm there 2 hours earlier, just so I'm not rushing. Like if it's a wedding, so the bride, so I say to the brides and grooms, I say, look, I'm going to get here a couple of hours early just to set up. And if it's a new venue as well, I just want to see what it's like, what if there's anything I need to take into account for. And they like that as well, because once I arrive, they're like, oh, sax player's here, I don't need to worry, because there are some in the industry who, still they turn up late and they don't treat it like a job, even though it's their full-time business. And I've heard some players who have been on the scene longer than me who have turned up a good couple of hours late and they're charging an absolute fortune. I'm like, this is why when people do question what I charge, I'm not just charging for the performance, I'm charging for my time, the travel, so getting there, it's the punctuality as well. Like I'm very I always leave extra time because you just don't know what the traffic's going to be like. You could hit, I remember I was going to a wedding. Luckily, I was way ahead of schedule, but there was a big closure on the A1. So I was sat in the traffic for another hour, but I still was able to get to the venue at least an hour before. So just to leave for that time, because if I don't leave that time, you turn up late, it doesn't look good, you're rushing around, you're sweating, and you're like, oh, and it's just, I'd rather just be waiting around and just kind of almost bored waiting to go on than just stressing. And that's what I always say to musicians: be punctual, be professional, because I would rather employ the musician who is more punctual and professional but not as talented than the musician who is talented but is just so lazy and just not on time, because it's not worth the stress. And I would rather just have someone who takes it seriously as well, because I think, well, if you're just turning up late, how do I know you're going to do a good job for me on the night as well? How serious, so I think being punctual is very, I always say, take this job seriously as you would with any 9-to-5 job, because if you turned up late to a 9-to-5, they'd fire you. And I think you've got to treat it like that. And I feel, because sometimes people still think that, even though I've been doing this over 10 years now, people still think it's a hobby. I'm like, no, this is not a hobby, because people say to me oh, so what do you do during the week? I'm like, well, I get up, do my admin, do my emails. No, but what do you do as a daytime job? No, this is my job. This is what I do for a living. They're like, oh, and you might as well have thought I told them the meaning of life or something. The way they react, it's just like, God, it's but yeah, you do still get people like that. But I've been very fortunate that I've had a close group of friends. Like my mum and dad have been very supportive, because with this job it's very different. And I think if you're going for something that is like a dream of yours or is a bit out of the ordinary, you are going to you're going to come up with like negativity, people just being negative, or just kind of saying, well, you can't do that as a job. And there were people who I thought would have my back, but don't. They were still very negative, like, oh, well, you got to get a proper job, or what is a proper job now? Like, it's just, I've got friends who sell stuff on Amazon, and that's what I've been very grateful for, because they run their own businesses as well. They've always understood it. Like my oldest friend, he said to me from the very beginning, Joe, do something you enjoy. If it's what you enjoy, it's what you're good at it, why do it for free? Just go for it. But there are some people who I thought would be supportive, who are just like, no. Even now, I think COVID was an interesting time, really. I think when obviously I had no work, and I think some people really it was almost like they were kind of waiting, and they were sort of rubbing like, oh, well, you've got to get, like, I'd get comments and saying, well, it looks like you've got to change career now and stuff. And oh, it was, yeah. I mean, I'm not I don't get angry very easily, but God, it was just, I thought, it was an interesting time. And then I think it really, there were people who did message me saying, how are you doing? Like, who genuinely cared, and who were like, oh, how are you doing for money, Joe? Are you okay? And stuff. And I said, I've got it. I've got this. I appreciate it. I know where you're coming from, but it's all right. I've got this. And then you would just get people saying, well, you had your fun now. I think it's time you got to change your career now and stuff. But I mean, yeah,
that's what you're up against, and I think that you have to stick to your guns. You want to play a sax, that's what you're doing, that's your job. Sorry,
Absolutely.
so just because you might be a mechanic, but I'm not going to ask you to be a ballet dancer.
No, exactly.
Just carry on being a mechanic, mate.
I know. Well,
That's what it is. And
yeah.
so you have to. I would give yourself a break off that. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
you are. If you've been through the pain.
Yeah.
At college, you've got a degree. That's good.
Yeah.
You've now created 3 things out of that. Number 1 is that you're touring. You're a touring saxophonist, and not only in this country but internationally, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
The second thing is that you are now helping other students on that same path, and each person is different.
Yeah.
And then the third one is of course you've created that. So is it the Creatives Network?
The Creative Meetup. Yeah. So the networking event. Yeah.
So what was whilst you're running your business, your career, you're also undertaking the network. So what's that about?
So last year, so David, who helps me in my videos, my videographer, my content creator, we were sort of looking at ideas, and he said, "Oh, have you got any original music? Do you want to do like an album launch?" I'm like, "Well, no, I've not got any original music, so I can't really do that." And he said, "Oh, well, what about putting on an event?" And I've tried the whole club promoting stuff when I was at uni. It just, wasn't for me at the time. I just thought, no, I don't really want to go into that. And I went to a networking event which was run by a guy I know called Reese Evans, goes by the name EV Pro, and he was running a networking event for creatives in Manchester and London. I went to the one in Manchester, and it was so good. And I thought, I really like this. And I said to David, I thought, let's build a community. Let's try and put on a networking event for people in the creative industry. So we came up with that, and so we had the first event in my hometown in Fitch. So it was more like a sort of a mock trial run, really, just to see what it would be like. And so I got my old college lecturer, teacher, Richard Nolan, very good session drummer, also educator as well. And I got a friend of mine who's a creative consultant, Jenny Meredith, her name is. We went to school together. We were also born the same day, and our mums were in the hospital beds next to each other. So when I introduce, I say I've known this girl all my life, and I literally have known her all my life because we were born on the same day in the same hospital. And I got my friend Sam Phillips, Dare to Dip, who is building his own community, and I wanted him to come and talk about his sobriety journey as well, because I've been very fortunate. I don't have a drink problem. I've never touched drugs, but I've always found Sam's story so inspiring, and how he's helped so many people, because I knew Sam from when I was like 16, when I worked in a kitchen and stuff. And even though he wasn't on the journey he's on now, he was still, I always liked Sam. He was always a very sound guy, and I really wanted to get him to talk as well, because I know he wants to do more public speaking. I thought, well, this is a good way to get help, to help him talk about what he did. So I got those 3 to speak, and it was mainly sort of, my mum and dad came, just people I knew, but I just thought it'd be a good way just to kind of see how this will work. And it was good. It was, we got a good number of people come, and it was really good. So
what's the setup for it?
So basically, sort of people sort of come in, sort of chat, mingle and stuff. Sometimes we'll have food on and stuff, and so you basically just chat and mingle, come and ask me questions, and then sort of after an hour, the doors have opened and people started talking to each other and stuff. I will start by
Nice one, thanks.
Oh yeah, so I will so I'll just start introducing who I am, obviously, and then what the Creative Meetup's all about and stuff, and sort of what our goals are and where it came from. So just keep that brief, and then I'll say, I'd like to welcome our first guest speaker, and then they'll tell their story, and then I'll say any questions, and then so introduce the next guest speaker, any questions, and then afterwards it's just more chatting, just very casual, because I've been to a lot of networking events where you have to wear a name tag, and it's you're talking to people in a very different industry and stuff. And with this, I want to keep it very casual, nothing too just kind of more for people who, obviously in the creative industry, because I feel networking is such a vital part of this business, and I feel it's not what you know, it's who you know, really. And for me, how I've able to get a lot of work is through networking. I feel that's so important, really. So and I kind of wanted to use this to even on young students I'm working to come along, because you never know who you're going to meet and stuff. And it's and the feedback I got from it after the Leeds one we did, again, I had the same people talking again. And with the Leeds one, I had people come who said, this is the first event I've been to where it's everyone I knew, I spoke to is in my industry. Because they've been to networking events, but it's like I'm talking to a recruitment agency person, or I'm talking to a solicitor, really. And it's like, well, I got some out of it, but it's just a bit, I couldn't benefit them, they couldn't benefit me, really. So it was, I'm basically now I want to build a community where people can come and chat, network. Just so the next one, I've got a DJ playing. So build
That's
a bit more.
October
the 9th. Yeah. So, so we're going to have a bit more of an atmosphere and just kind of make it very chilled again, and just and I've got completely brand new guest speakers talking as well.
Brilliant.
So
where do you get the speakers from?
Just people I know from the industry, so they're like my network, really. So one girl who's speaking, she came to the last event in Leeds. The other two are guys I've worked with before, sort of on the club scene, wedding industry as well, and one of them's providing music as well. So there's a DJ playing, and just so that's just how we sort of, each event I want to kind of do something a bit different. So last one we didn't have a DJ, now we've got a DJ playing. So just to build a bit of atmosphere and stuff, because the last venue we had was good, but it was one of the hottest days of the year and stuff. So the best room was the top floor where there was the most space, but it was just so hot that day. So this way they've got a balcony outside, so people can go and chat if the weather's nice. Obviously, they can go and chat outside. So, and then obviously because it's impossible in Manchester, they don't have to stay upstairs; they can go downstairs. So it's just keep it very casual, but just so hopefully it's an event where people can benefit from and just kind of learn stuff, or they'll meet someone. So if you're a musician but you need a videographer for your next promo reel, brilliant, I've met a videographer. So I really want it to kind of, for me, the creative meetup was just because now I get messages from people asking for help, and I just wanted to give back to my community. I feel once you've been in this industry, no matter however that looks, I think you should always try and give back and always try and help people, because I always try and help people in any way and help the industry as much as I can, because I do feel the arts are really taken for granted in this country. I feel there should be more funding to it. I'm seeing a lot of local councils now cutting funding for arts and stuff, and even schools making arts teachers or music teachers or just the arts department redundant and just cutting their funding. I think people don't realise how much we need the arts in our lives, because it's like, okay, it might not be vital, but if you go to the gym, could you just work out in an empty, quiet gym? Or could you say you're driving for 4 hours, could you just do that in complete silence? So I think people realise how much they do probably need the arts in their lives, really. And it's just how much I think some people take for granted, and they might not do it as a career, but people like watching Netflix, or people people listen to this is an art form. And it's like, and I really try and get that across to people, like, neglect the arts at your peril. I'm writing to local council saying you can't cut funding, like, you do this. And a great example I use, so when they had the D-Day memorial service I think it was in Portsmouth, and they had that big drone zone, and they had the big orchestras. You get rid of the funding from high schools and the orchestras, you can't have that in the future. That will be gone. You can't pay tribute to the soldiers who died at D-Day with big orchestras, because there's just no one who's able to do it, because you've cut the funding and stuff. And this is what I really try and get across and stuff. So I think if they get rid of the arts in high schools, I will probably start taking more of a step in. Not that I don't want to get in. I'm not interested in politics, but it's just I mean, it's just it's quite worrying, really, to be honest. And I think don't get rid of the arts. I feel it's so important to our lives, and I think like sometimes people use music and that to get away from their problems and stuff, and it's amazing what music can do and what the arts can do and stuff. So I think, and that's why I wanted to create this community as well. Just and I always say, like, you don't have to be creative to come to these events. If you run a business, say you run a construction business, but you want to make some cool videos, or you want to do more with your social media, you want to do more of your social media, come along, because you might meet a graphic designer or you might meet a videographer and stuff. So it's not just for creatives, it's for people who want to be a bit more creative with their business or improve their social media a bit, really. So, but yeah, that's the creative meetup in a sort of nutshell, really. So it's still kind of early days, but we just kind of want to get it bigger and bigger, to the point maybe we host, like maybe have a festival, a creative meetup festival. So you've got different stands where you have music playing. So, and maybe hold it in a big arena or something and get bigger guest speakers, say someone who's quite well known in the mainstream as well. So that's kind of, yeah, it's just something I'm not thinking too much into it. I'm just kind of, again, when I started my music career, just going out on a whim. Like, I don't have much experience putting on events, but it's helping me with my public speaking, but it's just helping me how to run events. So if someone needs help with running an event or consulting on an event, I can do that as well, really. So it's, but yeah, that's the creative meetup, and yeah, we're looking forward to the 9th October. We've nearly sold out all the tickets, which was incredible. I looked at the Eventbrite and I was like, blimey, I nearly just knocked me off my seat. I was like, gee, bloody hell, that's really, really good. So it's little things like that as well, and it just kind of, it's good, because I feel there is definitely a demand for those kind of networking.
So that's events. Creative Meetup.
The Creative Meetup, yeah.
And so people can find that on Instagram, I
guess.
Yeah,
Instagram at the Creative Meetup, yeah.
That's, and then I think, as you say, you've got the whatever tickets are left, you can get them through Eventbrite.
Yeah, Eventbrite, yeah. There's a link in the bio on the Instagram page as well. So I think get them quick as well, so because I don't think there's many left. So
well, I'm definitely I'm a fan of networking. It's we're going.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. Yeah, no, you're more than welcome. It'd be really great to see and hear it. You know.
Yeah.
And I think it's a brilliant idea. Networking is a massive thing.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why the podcast started, actually. You know, because it was all about those lone entrepreneurs who sat in a corner of the house, or maybe have a clinic in the back garden, or in the garage, or the sports people who are on your own.
Yeah.
And it's about shedding a light on the talent.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's about bringing people together. Yeah. You know? And so those sort of events are absolutely super.
Yeah.
What's your next? What have you got in terms of gigs coming up then?
Gigs, predominantly just kind of. I'm coming towards a sort of quiet period. I'm going on holiday. In a couple of weeks, so I'm just having a bit of a downtime end of October. It's my birthday this week as well, so yeah, just kind of getting ready. It's the Christmas period coming up now, really, so that's, as a month alone, that is very busy. It's good, but it can, so I always make sure that the months, like end of October, November, not keep them very quiet, but just enough so I've got enough energy coming up to the Christmas period, so I'm able to go into that month just full of energy, and I'm ready to do it, because back in 2022, my end of October, November, I was having to cover for a lot of people. I think people were still getting COVID and stuff, and I ended up doing a lot more work. So by the time I got to Christmas, I was literally on not almost an empty tank, and it was the month where a lot of snow, and I had one week where it was a great week, but it was a very hard week, because I was in Sheffield on the Monday, I was in London Tuesday, Wednesday, Newcastle Thursday, back down to Essex Friday, and then Carlisle Saturday. And I started that week with a cold, and it was snowing, and I was driving. The trains were on strike because of three of those gigs I was meant to get the train for. So I was having to drive a bit more than I planned. So it was just, so I learned from that year just to make sure that my October, November is just, it's not too quiet, but it's just enough so I'm still working, but I'm just able to attack Christmas full of energy and just go for it. But Christmas is the next what's coming up for me. So mainly it's still a few weddings, but just corporates and corporate and Christmas parties and stuff. That's what's coming up for me. And then next year hopefully a couple of international gigs as well, sort of weddings and stuff. I'm still getting those all ticked off, sort of just the admin side, so the sorting out the travel and stuff, the not so glamorous side of it all, really, the logistics, really. But that's what's coming up. But sort of obviously just working on other bits, so it's still the consultancy stuff. I want to do more public speaking and stuff, and that was so I'll be speaking at the next creative meetup, just sort of, because people do ask me, what we want to hear a bit more about what you do. So I thought, well, I'll just use that to just kind of talk to people and stuff as well, and just sort of, well, obviously talk to people a bit more about what I do, and then. Yeah, so I'm going sort of more in that public speaking realm, sort of like motivational speaking, you could say. That's kind of what I want to go into, and then obviously building the creative me up, and sky's the limit, really, kind of. So, yeah. But obviously still having that leisurely time and make sure I still have a life as well. Because I'm very fortunate now that I don't have to fill weekends. So next year I'm trying not to fill my weekend gigs so quickly. Now I'm just kind of. One, just leaving it in case I get something quite local, so I don't have to, like Saturday I was just 15 minutes down the road for a gig, and I thought, oh, it's great, like I don't have to travel hours upon hours to this gig. I can literally just 15 minutes down the road, so I wouldn't mind getting a few more gigs like that, or just spending time with friends and family, really, loved ones, really, because I feel, the first couple of years doing this, I think those are bits you've got to sacrifice, but once you've been in it long enough, and if you're able to make a good living, really prioritize that time with loved ones and friends and stuff, because money comes and goes, but those memories, that time, you might not get those back. Because I lost my granddad this year, and that's been tough as well, on top of sort of keep a very busy schedule and stuff. But it just kind of made me realize that I need to make sure I have that time with loved ones. So using this time in October, just that time off, just to catch up with my mum and dad, because they still live in Suffolk and that. So just make sure I still see them when I can, and then obviously spending time with my other half. We get time together as well, because I was meant to be going to Nottingham yesterday, but I called that off because I thought, you know what, it's very rare we get a Sunday together, and I just thought, you know what, let's just have a Sunday doing nothing. Even though I do struggle doing nothing, it's very hard to do nothing. It was just, luckily the football was on, so I was able to sort of just kind of watch that. That kept me. But it's just little things like that. You don't have to go out and do loads of activity. You can just be sitting down doing nothing. Like my college tutor, Rich, one of the things he said when he spoke at the last creative meetup, he said, have a day where you just do nothing. Just play Xbox, just do nothing, because it's amazing what it can just do for you. Because I always sometimes feel, am I doing enough? Am I working hard enough? And I'm thinking, just take a step back. It's all right to have a day off. It's fine, because sometimes it can do you a world of good. So when you're back at your computer, you actually feel refreshed and like, oh, I know what I need to do now and stuff, because I've just had that day just to recharge. So if I work on a Sunday, Mondays are kind of like my Sunday. So if I worked yesterday, today would have been just like a day just to chill. Okay, I might have checked a couple of emails, but I wouldn't have done too much, to be honest. I would have just kept it very chilled, really. But so
life on the road, though, as a musician, is probably perceived as being glamorous, but it really isn't.
Oh, it's not. No, people do think I live
they
think I live a very rock and roll lifestyle. I'm like, no, it's not. I don't go back to my hotel room and have parties and alcohol. Don't drink alcohol. It's literally, I'll do a gig, go back to my hotel room and go to bed. I'm like, that is like, it's not. I think that's the thing with social media. I feel,
but it's knackering though.
It is,
and you've got to keep people's attention basically for a couple of hours.
Yeah, exactly. You do, and it is very. Sometimes you do great gigs and they're really good. The crowd's bouncing, and then sometimes I had a friend of mine, sax player, he said, oh yeah, I did this gig, Joe. As soon as I started playing, everyone just went and sat down. I was like, yeah, I've had, you do get that. But you've just got to treat every gig the same, with the same energy, whether they're not dancing. If they're still in the room, then fair, you just got to play to the people who are sat down and stuff. And I think that's the thing, like people who aren't in my industry, they look at my social media and just think, oh, your life's just one big holiday, and isn't it? I'm like, oh, I do enjoy it, but trust me, it is not all. It's been hard. It's been very hard. There've been some days I'm just like, I would rather be sat on the sofa doing nothing. But you've got to.
Yeah, but with those things, though, it's like a sports person, right? And what you don't see is the hours and hours and hours of training.
Oh God, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so I think going back to what you said before, which was, you need to play. So if it doesn't matter what it is,
you just got to play.
Or whatever, you need to play, and you need to play for 6 hours a day. Professional snooker players, they're probably practicing 6 to 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
We know that Thai boxers and MMA fighters, they're practicing all the time.
Oh yeah.
And so you have to, in order to be able to get there, if you want to be touring and you want to be making a living out of it, you're gonna have to play.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I say a lot of my practice time is my gigs. So the gigs I'm doing. So if I'm playing to an empty bar, that's my practice time. That is literally, it's a paid practice time. That's the only time I get to practice, really. And but yeah, it's just, I think as long as you're playing, I say to younger students and aspiring musicians, I say to them, just play, just play. As long as you're playing, that's a good thing. And then you can just, sometimes I learn things on gigs, like I learn things that I wouldn't have done just sitting in a practice room. So it's just putting in those hours. And I think that is the thing with social media. And I was listening, I think Jimmy Carr said this, I think people suffer with body dysmorphia, but I think a lot of people look at life dysmorphia, and they look at me and I think, and that's the thing, the people who are very negative towards me, or the naysayers, they just assume that, yeah, my life's just one big holiday, and you just think it's all roses and flowers, and I'm like, no, it's not. Like, sometimes you think you turn up to a gig and the DJ's equipment's not working, or your sometimes you can have a little mini heart attack, and sometimes because it's like something's not working. It's not always, but it just, that's what I prepare aspiring musicians. You've got to be prepared for those moments, and in a way, be grateful for those moments, but also just kind of, yeah, just be prepared. And it's not always, and I think, yeah, social media is great and stuff, but don't take everything with a pinch of salt, because I think it just shows it's a highlight reel. That's all it is. It's just the highlights. But I did a post where I was meant to be gigging in York. I got to my hotel, and the guy rings me, oh, we've had to cancel the gig. But he said, but I was very fortunate, it's a regular client, and he said, we'll still pay. He said, are you in York now? And I'm like, yeah. We'll still pay you. We'll still cover your hotel. And I did a little post where it just said, oh, point of view, your gig in York's been cancelled, and it's like, the caption was, well, I guess I've just got to be a tourist. So that's what I do. So literally, I'm either on my laptop, I just picture me reading and stuff, and then just obviously walking around York. It's showing that little aspect that some people wouldn't see as well, and just kind of, I think a lot of people, even David, my content creator, said, oh, that was a cool little video you made that as well, because. Yeah, so I do try and show different aspects, not just the cool crowds jumping around and stuff playing. It's just it's in a way I try and use my social media to tell a little bit of a story as well. And it's because it was when I got to, like, after COVID, and when I got to, like, 2022, I was at that point where I'm very comfortable. Things are good, but I want to just take it that next level. And when I met David, how I met David was at a networking event. He was filming it. And so that's why networking, I feel, is just so important, because if I hadn't gone to that networking event, I would have never met David. I wouldn't have been doing my content. I wouldn't be doing, because the feedback has been really good. Even people in my own industry have said, your content, Joe, it's the best I've seen out of anyone in the industry doing that for us. It's a little feedback like that, because I think people worry so much about numbers and followers and views. But I take the little things, so little messages like that saying, oh, Joe, that's the best social media I've seen from anyone in the industry. And it's little things like that, because we make videos and they take about an hour to film, and they're 10 seconds long, and they only get very minimal views, and you're like, oh my, oh, it's just like that took ages to film, and it's like it's done nothing. But I feel with people, because that's the thing, I get people ask me, how have you been able to make such a good social media, and what do I need to do to get that socials up? And I say to them, like, look, be consistent. I think with any social media, if you are going to be posting more content, just be consistent. Don't keep it going, because I see people, they make this great content, and it's really good, and then they just stop. And they wonder why they're not getting any follow. I'm like, you've got to keep going, keep posting. It doesn't have to be, and that's, with working with David, I've learned to be more independent myself. So if he's a little bit late sending me stuff, because I know I'm not his only client, he's got other clients. Then that's what people assume. They assume that they're my only client. I'm like, no, this is, like, I understand that David has other clients. He might be a little bit late sending stuff, but I know it will be good stuff. So while I'm waiting for him, I'm just making my own stuff, or I'm just taking old stuff we've filmed and just recycling it and just doing that. And he said, and I'm just being consistent as well. And I feel with social media, just be consistent, just keep posting, just because you never know. Like, a friend of mine, she's a percussionist, and she got 1 million views on one video, and it was just a simple camera phone, like nothing special. She said it was no different than what I've posted before, but she just literally looked at her phone and it had like 1 million views, and it was nothing. Yeah, it was just on a simple video phone, and I'm just like, and that's a perfect example of just being consistent. Even if it doesn't have to be the highest quality, but just still keep it at just camera phone quality video, but just be consistent. Just keep posting. Doesn't have to be every day, but maybe every other day. So I posted this morning, then I'll probably post again on Wednesday and stuff, and just keep that consistency going, because the algorithm will eventually pick it up and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm on Instagram, but TikTok I'm still getting my head around TikTok. I feel some people, they either do really well on TikTok or really well on Instagram. It's never, or if they do well on TikTok, and then some people from TikTok, they go to their Instagram, and then eventually it does better. But yeah, it's but I just say with social media, if you want to do more on that, just be consistent. Keep posting. Just even when days you don't want to, just keep posting, because it is hard. Like, I feel it's just, yeah, social media, it's a very complex thing, but I think just keep be consistent with it, and just, if you're not too sure, get a content creator, get someone who's an expert in it, and see if they can make stuff. It doesn't have to be high quality. Some content creators I know, they just do stuff on their phone. It looks really good, to be fair, but you can tell it's been shot on a phone and stuff, and just ask for help that way if you're not too sure in that. But
yeah, I think that's right though. Just make sure that you've got the content out there with a device that, you know, if you can afford that, then that's what you can afford.
Yeah.
So for your to book you for a gig, whereabouts do people go?
So my website, social media, so that's where you can find me. I've got a Google business page, but word of mouth is my biggest way I get this, the number one way I get gigs now, because I get a lot of my inquiries I get now. They always mostly start with, you came very highly recommended and stuff. So word of mouth is number one, because I think some people assume it's social media and websites, but word of mouth is just number one for me. And that's what I think. It's like, even if you've got a restaurant, if you make good food, it doesn't have to be the fanciest, but if it's good, people remember. And so a couple of weeks ago, I did a wedding for this girl who, the first gig I ever did for her was her 21st. Then I did her 25th. I did her engagement party, and then I've now done her wedding as well. And those, so for me, usually word of mouth, but if you want to find me, it's usually social media, so they'll book me through.
What's your handle?
I am Joe Reeve. It's my Instagram handle. And but yeah, some people find me on my website, and then I've got a booking form, so they just fill out. So name, email address, phone number, just a brief description. I always say, tell me your date, tell me your venue. Those are the two things. So I'll get people message me saying, "Oh, hi, I'm looking for a sax player. Can you help me?" I'm like, "Okay, that's great. But one, is this for a wedding? Oh yeah, tell me what event it is as well. Is this for a wedding, private party, corporate event? Just little description of what your event is, the date and the venue, or where it is. I'd say that is key. So then it just doesn't mean I have to keep going back and forth. It's just like, okay, I know exactly what they want. I can say I'm free, or if I'm not free. If I'm not free, usually I'll say, I'm really sorry, I'm not free on this date, but I know a few other sax players who are really good and who potentially might be free as well. So that's also how I try and help the industry as well, just recommend other people if I'm not free as well, because I don't like leaving people hanging, say, "Oh, sorry, no, I'm not free," and then just leave it like that. It's a bit rude as well. So I just always say, like, "Hi, I'm really sorry, I'm not free, but I can recommend a few people," and just give them a list of people. And yeah, sometimes I'll say I'll recommend people, and then they'll email me, and I'm a bit slow getting back, because then I'll get another. But I do try and make sure I get back with recommendations. But sometimes I say, people, just give me a little nudge as well sometimes. But I do try and be very prompt with my replying as well if I can. Because also the one thing I always get is like, "Oh, thank you so much, really appreciate you replying." Because some people I know in the industry, they just take forever to reply. I had one friend up in Newcastle who's a sax player, and I messaged him saying, "Oh, I need cover for." Well, no, someone I know is looking for a sax player for this date. Are you free? Gets back to me after the date has been and gone. He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm free," and I'm like, "Mate, the date's been and gone." So I do try and be quite quick with my response, but obviously if I'm away and stuff, if I'm on holiday, I'll just let people know and just say, or just send an automated response saying, I'm away on this day. I'll still be checking it, but I just might be a bit slower and stuff. But yes.
And your creative network, how do people get hold of you for that?
It's through Instagram at the moment. I'm going to look at trying to get a website made for that as well. But at the moment, it's just through social media. So I'm going to, the creative meetup.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we've got at I am Jim Reeves.
I am Joe Reeve.
I am Joe Reeves.
Yep.
And
and at the Creative Meetup.
Network.
Yeah. So first of all, my music. So my professional saxophone page is at I am Joe Reeve, and then the Creative Meetup is just at Creative Meetup. Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Keep on inspiring those youngsters.
Oh, we'll do.
Sure that they would have taken something out of this, and but keep supporting them the way you are.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah.
And I definitely love the Creative Meetup. That's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so looking forward to seeing when that
it's
goes.
hard, when you're on your own. So you're really pushing that through. So it's been really enlightening. Yeah. And just before we go, who was the teacher who inspired you? What was his name?
So Martin Robinson. He was
big shout out to Martin Robinson.
It was Martin Robinson who was my saxophone teacher, and then my head of music, Mike Wren. Final point for one thing I always say to young musicians: no matter where you get in your career, if you become a Grammy award-winning, multi-instrumental award-winning musician, or if you're just a session musician, never forget where you started. Never forget where you came from. And I always say, meeting Martin, meeting Mike, it changed my life, and I owe so much. And I know they'll say to me, "Don't be silly, Joe. It's all you." But I'm just like, no, you. And I always say that to young musicians: never forget where you started. Never forget where you came from, because unfortunately, you do get some who do forget that, and sometimes. And I always kind of just sort of remember, and I always say to them, thank you so much for what you did, because I wouldn't be sitting here chatting to you today probably I wouldn't have. And it's all the other things, not just the music side, but it's all the personal things. So meeting some of my best friends at university, because I chose to go on this path, I was able to meet people and just experience new things. So it just that's what they did so much for me, and I'm so grateful for that. So
I wonder what a wonderful place to end there, I think.
Brilliant.
Joe, keep on going.
We'll do.
Thanks very much indeed, and that you are a local hero.
Oh,
keep on going, and thanks very much for inspiring.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Cheers.